Hello everyone, I'm Yoshikigami, President of BOSS, talking from Japan. Hi Jeff, how are you doing?
Excellent, Yoshi. It's great to see you. For everybody at home, my name is Jeff Slingloff. I am the product manager for Boss here in the United States, and we're on Talk with Boss. Talk with Boss is a weekly live streaming event where we talk with CEO and President Yoshi Ikegami about the biggest and coolest products for Boss, and we bring in questions from you guys, and we get to talk to Yoshi directly about fun things. And today's fun topic would be, Yoshi?
Yeah, today we are talking about Katana amplifier
Again, and I love Katana Amplifier. We talked about this a little bit last week. We talked a little bit about the origin of it and how it started off with the Waza amplifier, and we worked our way down, which was great. Can you tell us a little bit more about the origin of the Katana amp types?
Amp types. Yeah, we are using all original type of sound. As you know, we used modeling amp a lot, but,
Hmm?
but making a modeling amp, the first thing is, important thing is getting best amp as a sample, you know. So we try to get a very good conditioned amplifier, and also we are making sound, but always people compare to their own amplifier, and they say something different. So even if we are just chasing such kind of modeling amplifier sound, we cannot behind to the original amplifier. So this time we decided to make all our original tone. That's the reason we have an original amplifier type.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And to me, the Boss Katana amplifiers and all the Boss amplifiers, whether it's Next Tone or even the Roland Blues Cube, they don't really fit in the modeling amplifier tradition because the power in them is so unique in the way that it interacts with the speaker and the impedance of the speaker like a tube amplifier. So it's not just a piece of DSP that's fed through a dumb power amp. It's an interactive system, and it's much more than a modeling amp if you had done it to be a modeling amp. And we've done so much more to try and go above and beyond that, which I think is really great. Can you explain a little bit why the Katana amplifiers, they just sit in a band extremely easily? They're very comfortable, not like a traditional solid state amplifier.
Yeah, our target with sound is very much smooth sound, and also we prefer brown sound. And also with our original technology, Tube Logic, that provides organic interaction of each stage, like a preamp, power amp stage, and power supply, and speaker cabinet, speaker itself. So such kind of Tube Logic technology provides a very smooth and very musical sound. So maybe you can feel the same.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that's one of the things that is great about Tube Logic. I explained a little bit about this last week, because I'm really, impressed with what engineering has done with that. But traditionally with a tube amplifier, you don't get it to sound good until you turn up the master volume. In fact, most of the things we like over the years didn't even have master volume amplifiers. And when you turn up the master volume, it causes interactions all the way through things. And the DSP inside of Katanas do that naturally. The bleed plus voltage interaction with the power tubes. But if we just put it through a generic amplifier, it would have been flat still. And by having an amplifier that responds to the impedance, and the frequency of the impedance changes based on the speaker, is a really unique thing. And that Tube Logic really helps it to cut through a band, and I really love that. That's kind of my interpretation of Tube Logic. For you, obviously you were saying, tube amps are kind of rare to be in good conditions.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get a good condition amplifier, and also maintain the sound of the tube amplifier is very much difficult. So some of famous musicians who we worked with, like Robin Ford and Eric Johnson, they understand such a thing. They have a very good amplifier, but maintain the condition is very much difficult. So they understand the benefit of the tube logic technology. So they worked with us.
Yeah, and I think once you even told me during the development of the Blues Cube amplifier and the Eric Johnson tone capsule, I think you'd mentioned that they had 3 of every amp. You know, one for stage, one for backup, and one that was always being repaired because at least one was always broken. So, and most people can't do that today, and it's a very rare scenario, which somebody who has the budget and the experience might be able to do that. But in a modern day world, katanas are just great that way.
Yeah, and also sometimes they don't want to travel with their masterpiece amplifier. You know, they keep yeah, best
exactly.
one at their home. Also,
Yeah.
you know, we went to Nashville last year for KATANA Amp. You know, I saw a lot of KATANA amplifier. Did you see?
Oh yeah, no. So it's amazing. Like when I first met you 4 years ago at Nashville, you know, cruising around Broadway, there's like 35, 40 clubs. They're just all on top of each other. It's amazing. And it was all, you know, your typical 1x12 combo amp that you would expect. And then a year and a half ago when you and I were there, it was like 25 or 30% of all those amps, if not more, had switched over to KATANA amplifiers. And one of the great stories that somebody came up to me, and a guy came up and he's like, "I just want to shake your hand and say thank you." And later I introduced him to you, but at first he's like, "I just want to say thank you. You've saved my life." And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, he goes, "I play literally 800 gigs a year," and he goes, "I play 2 to 3 gigs a day, and I have 3 amplifiers, one that's always getting retubed. I have 1 amp retubed a month, and one that's always broken down, and then one I've got always in the gig. So one's, you know, just this constant cycle." And he goes, "Since I've bought this," he goes, "I haven't had to replace tubes. I haven't had to bad backup amps. I've had the best tone of my life, and I just wanted to thank you." And then I brought him over to introduce him to you because he got a chance to meet, you know, the president of Boston, which is cool.
800 gigs in a year. And
yeah, I know.
You visited 30 clubs, 30, 40 clubs at one night?
Yoshi,
for marketing,
me, haven't you?
For marketing, right?
Yeah, it was marketing purposes, all research.
Okay.
I'm glad you came along to help out with that research. Yeah, good. In October 2019, we introduced the Katana Mark II was released, and it had a bunch of great new upgrades to what was already a really great amp. You know, the extra effects, the extra knobs, the power amp in, the stereo linking. You know, these were all great. How did you, you know, first off, you know, one of the big things was that it had 5 additional amp tones. So a lot of people don't know this, that Katana, you know, Mark II has exactly the same 5 original sounds. They sound exactly the same. And then we came up with 5 new additional sounds that were put in there. How do we decide on the additional new amp variations?
Yeah, as I said, you know, Katana amplifier sound concept is very smooth and useful sound. But sometimes, you know, people say, I want to get much louder or punchy sound. So the new variation, most of our basic concept is giving much power, like a punchy low end, and also much more brighter high end. So maybe you can feel that's a little bit louder sound feeling.
Yeah, and for me, you know, what really came out is when you have an amplifier cranked up, a traditional tube amp, there's a character to the transformer distortion, and it does add that high and low that you're talking about, where the high is this detailed, harmonically rich character which comes out, and a lot of the variations really bring that out even a little bit more. And you also get this depth, this kind of punch underneath it, right? Which is that all that iron in the transformer. And somehow, you know, the engineering team was really capable of putting that in there. And, you know, the variations is a great way to go from something smooth and very comfortable to something that's a little bit more, you know, pushed and a little bit more fun in some ways. So it's a great association of things. Why did we add additional effects knobs?
Yeah, because, you know, Katana, you can access a lot of effects by using PC, but like, you know, Nashville bound people, live performance guys, they want access to the effect by front panel, right? So we decided to add such kind of hardware modify on the Mark II.
Right. So we use those stacked knobs, so it didn't look more complex. It's actually, in a way, a little bit easier.
Yeah.
You can just grab a knob and go, right? You know, one of the other things that I was really unique about Katana Mark II, which was astounding to me, is the stereo expand feature, which is great for using 2 amps in stereo. And then one thing that I thought was really cool was that the stereo experience between 2 Katana Mark IIs was so great. But then with the Mark I's, we came up with version 4, which allowed you to now take one of the 100-watt models of Katana and add stereo linking, which was quite cool. You know, and that was really, really good. I love that. So, are there any more updates that you've got planned in the future for Mark I or for Mark IIs and that are coming up?
Yeah, when we released the Mark II, we were thinking, you know, of course Mark II is very, very good, but how about the current users? So we decided to update Mark I too. And also we add some possibility to use Mark I for the extended stereo capability. So then current customer can buy another Mark II. So we decided to update Mark I and also adding stereo capability for Mark II.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool because, you know, if you had a Katana Mark I and now you get the new amplifier, you know, one GAFC controller will control one amplifier and your full stereo spread, and it's a very, very cool experience. And since they are identical as far as the power amp, the box and everything, and even the speakers are identical, they really meld up nicely. It's not an odd sensibility. And speaking of the speakers, you know, the speakers that are in the Katana, we mentioned this last week. You know, we started off with the Waza speaker design to try and make a 100-watt version of a greenback. But you know, even in the Katanas, which are obviously a much more affordable amp, the speakers are very amazing. You know, can you tell me a little bit about the development on those
speakers?
Yeah.
Yeah. When we made a Waza speaker, that is our challenge is making high wattage speaker with good sound. But this time, Katana, you know, for gigging as a gigging amp, people want to get much louder sound. So the speaker efficiency is one of our challenge. So finally, you know, Katana speaker was totally better than my expectation. You know, that was good.
Yeah. Well, I don't think, you know, I'm not sure if everybody at home knows this, but when you look at 2 amplifiers, a 50-watt amplifier versus a 100-watt amplifier, it's only 3 dB of difference, right? So it's a very, you know, it seems like it should be more, but it's not. And from one speaker design to another, it's easy to have 3 dB or 4 dB of difference between 2 speakers. And the more you make it efficient, it may be louder, but it starts to not sound as good sometimes. And somehow the engineers, you and the team, were capable of coming up with a really efficient speaker, which helped the 50-watt Katana or watt Katana to really cut through. And they also have a good harmonic balance, and they really sit well in a band and have a good tone at all levels, which is really cool. Another feature that's on the Katanas, you know, that is really unique to it and to the whole Tube Logic story is power control. Can you tell me a little bit about power control?
Yes. You know, if you want to get a good sound on the tube amplifier, you have to crank up master volume. But
yeah,
you know, people say I love tube amp, but some of guys are just using master volume at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock.
Yes.
So that is not good. So always you have to crank up over 2 o'clock or something. So we have a power control. So if you want to try Katana sound, you should down the power control halfway down, 50% or something, and start with 12 or 2 o'clock master volume. Then you can get more tube feel from the amp.
Right, because it already has a bunch of the feel in it, but it will start to get that feel. I don't know if, just to kind of explain a little bit about the master volume on a tube amp. Tube amplifiers, most people don't realize there are, several tubes leading up to the output, but when you put a small signal in, each tube adds a little bit of gain, which means the last tube is the first tube to start to distort and clip and do all of its dynamics and stuff. So when you put a master volume in front of that, the master volume stops that last tube from doing its stuff. And if it doesn't do its stuff, then it doesn't rob the voltage, and a lot of the dynamics and feel start to go very, very weak. With the Katana amplifiers, you can get that experience with no problem at all, right? So that's cool. That's very, very cool. Well, Yoshi, we're probably coming to the end of our time here for today, so next week we're going to come back and you're going to be talking with Matt Knight, my counterpart in the UK, who's an awesome gentleman, and he will be talking to you with some things. And first off, we're going to do it at a time that's more appropriate for the UK. Where this week we did it where it was a good time for US and Japan, but now we're going to switch it over a little bit. I hope that doesn't mean you're doing it at 3 in the morning. But what are you going to be talking with Matt about next week, Yoshi?
Yeah, we will talk about all both delay machine, like DD8. Also,
Oh yeah, the new one.
DD200, including everything.
Oh, awesome. So you're going to talk about all the models and everything that's in there, right? And, I bring this up all the time, but, the first digital delay for a guitar pedal comes from a rack mount device that you yourself designed in the early 80s, which was the SDE 3000. And then somehow you guys shrunk that down to make the first Boss digital delay pedal, which was the first digital delay pedal for guitar. So I'm really excited to see what you guys talk about next week, and I hope everybody else is. If you at home have any questions about it, about any of the delays, not only the DD8, which is a new product which we released, which Yoshi just held up, or the DD200, which is also awesome, any of the current delay models, please write your questions in to boss.info. Talk to us, and we'll try and bring up your questions for everybody else. We just a whole lot of fun, and of course, Yoshi, it's always a blast talking to you and hanging out. And I'm glad that everybody else gets to meet and hang out with you and learn a little bit of what you know, which is so vast. I look forward to seeing you next week as an audience member while Matt talks to you, and I hope you have a great week.
Thank you very much, everybody. See you next week. Bye.